Did you know that in the Victorian era, people didn't just wear black when they were grieving? Some people wore specific flowers, jewelry, or even fragrances to mourn the dead. Honestly, it might explain why I'm so drawn to dark and nostalgic perfumes. The Victorians had a very different relationship with death than we do today. Death wasn't hidden away, it wasn't something that people avoided talking about. Instead, it was woven into everyday life, and people developed elaborate rituals designed to remember the people that they had lost. One of the most fascinating aspects of Victorian mourning culture was their obsession with preserving memory. Families often preserved locks of hair from their deceased loved ones and wove them into intricate jewelry or even elaborate works of art. They also practiced post-mortem photography. Families would sometimes photograph deceased loved ones and create a final portrait that could be kept for years afterwards. To us, these photographs may seem unsettling, but to the Victorians, they were acts of love. And fragrance may have also played a role as well. Just as people preserved letters, photographs, and locks of hair, they sometimes kept scented handkerchiefs or fragrances associated with someone that they had lost. In many ways, fragrance became another keepsake, not one that you could see, but one that you could feel. One of the strangest objects associated with mourning is something called a tear bottle. According to legend, mourners would collect tears shed after the death of a loved one into these small glass vessels. It's a beautiful story, but historians aren't entirely convinced it's true. Many of these so-called tear bottles were actually probably perfume bottles or vessels used to hold fragranced oils. And honestly, I think that's even more fascinating because whether or not they were used to hold tears or fragrance, the purpose was ultimately the same. It was to preserve something fleeting, a feeling, a memory, or a connection to someone who was gone. Flowers also played an important role in Victorian mourning culture, and not just because they were beautiful. Before modern embalming, funerals often lasted several days, and flowers served a more practical purpose. They helped mask the smell of decomposition. Many flowers we now associate with beauty and romance were once closely associated with death and mourning. The Victorians also believed that flowers carried messages of their own. Entire bouquets could communicate emotions that were often too painful for one to say out loud. And maybe that's part of the reason why certain floral fragrances still feel so emotional today. Not because we consciously recognize those meanings, but because flowers have carried centuries of symbolism with them. The more I learned about Victorian mourning culture, the more I realized that all of these traditions have something in common. The photographs, the hair jewelry, the flowers, the tear bottles, they're all attempts to preserve something that can't be preserved forever. And perfume really isn't that different. The moment that you spray a fragrance, it's already beginning to disappear. You can't stop it, you can't preserve it, just like you can't stop time or you can't stop loss. And that's what fascinates me the most about Victorian mourning culture and fragrance, because at their core, both are really just about memory. Because the flowers fade, the photographs age, and the letters yellow with time, and every fragrance eventually disappears from our skin. But for a brief moment, those things allow us to revisit something that we thought was gone, whether it's a person, a feeling, or a memory. And maybe that's why fragrance has always felt so magical to me. Because even though it never lasts, it has the power to bring something back, if only for a moment. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, follow, or subscribe, and come explore the curious world of fragrance with me. Until next time, stay curious.